This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
It's time to play the music. It's time to light the light. It's time to meet the Muppet on the
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to another edition of Mickey and Matt Rushmore here on the PTV Pop Experience. I am your host / moderator / panelist for this episode, Steve Riddle, and today we got a very interesting episode. We got a couple of good topics to talk about. You could potentially say that they are sensational. You may say that they are inspirational. You may say they're celebrational. You might even say they're Muppetational. And I just think that might give away the topic we're going to be talking about today. But I do have a couple of great guests involved here. Two, unfortunately, could not join us, but they did send in their list. There are two people that are definitely an expert on our topic. But I do have another gentleman with me that is on the line here with me. He's been on before, so you're very familiar with him. He is, of course, my co-host on the show Extreme Resurrection over on the PTV Wrestling feed. He also, of course, hosts Nation Invasion on that feed, as well as one of the co-hosts of Pop Goes Degrassi here on this feed. It is my good friend, Mr. James Gruenberg. James, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Steve, and the topics are fun tonight. And when you announce it, it's like you almost seem that they're like your best friends almost.
Yes, indeed. These characters could definitely feel like your best friends. And of course, like I said, if you didn't guess by now what our topic is, it is going to be on all things Muppets. Of course, the Muppets an institution of pop culture since, we think back to when the late, great Jim Henson first created them. And, of course, they've been on TV and the movies, in, sporadic appearances. They're just a part of, like I said, a part of pop culture. And they're definitely, I think, worth talking about. So our first segment here that we're going to discuss, we're going to be talking about the Muppets themselves. So who we think are our favorite Muppet characters, because there's been so many over the course of time. You talk about like the original Muppets, then you've got like the Sesame Street characters, you got the Fraggle Rock characters. So it pretty much covers any spectrum of that universe, as it were. So Gruny, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. Give us the first entry on your Mount Rushmore of Muppet characters.
Well, to kick off this episode and this list here, you have to go with Kermit the Frog, the green frog. It's not easy being green, as he says, but for Kermit, it was easy being green. He's like the leader of the Muppets in a sense. He always has like the great ideas. He solves problems. He helps everybody he helps everyone, and he makes you feel better too. Whether it was his own show or was his appearances on Sesame Street, Kermit the Frog has always been a part of my childhood. I was introduced to Kermit through various shows, and I had like a little Kermit doll and stuff. But Kermit the Frog is like your friend till the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you think of the Muppets, Kermit is definitely the first one you think of. He's just, again, so recognizable. That's Jim Henson's voice. He's been, all over the place in TV and movies. He's just one of those characters that's just, in the pantheon of pop culture. He's definitely up there. And I want to apologize. I forgot to mention, I did say we had two other people that couldn't be on, but they did send in lists. And that is my co-host, my tri-hosts on Pop Goes the Classics, Andy Atherton and Mirandia Berthold, who, like I said, they are experts on the Muppets because they, of course, have their own show on the Muppets. That is the most sensational, inspirational, celebrational, Muppetational podcast, which is temporarily on a hiatus, but I know they look to get back into that soon. I know Andy had Kermit on his main list, as did I, and Miranda had him as an honorable mention. But like I said, when you think of the Muppets, the first one I think everyone always thinks of is Kermit, and for good reason. Like I said, he's so recognizable. He's just such a great character, and he's one that will no matter what the situation is, he's always one that will always be remembered. So, okay, well, I will go ahead and give my first character after, like I said, I did have Kermit, and I'm going to go with I guess the one you can argue is Kermit's sidekick. I mean, he's definitely, if these two were a comic pair, Kermit would definitely be the straight man, or the straight frog in this case, having to deal with the antics of one Fozzie Bear. Fozzie, of course, the resident comedian of the Muppets, always trying to get some, his classic jokes in, usually met to some, varying degrees of ridicule. Obviously, everyone knows on the Muppet Show he was the frequent target of a pair of old gentlemen that we'll talk about probably later on here in our list. But give Fozzie credit. He always tried to make the best of everything. Like I said, he was maybe not the best comedian, but he always definitely brought the goods, and he always tried to make the situation light, no matter what it was, whether it be in a TV show or in the Muppet movies. Andy had him on his Mount Rushmore, and Greenie, you also had him on your Mount Rushmore.
Yes, Fozzie Bear is very funny, but also he tries too hard with his jokes. And it's also funny when people already know his jokes too. And it's like, well, then what else do I do with my routine? I will say, I feel that Fozzie Bear is scared sometimes, and he relies on Kermit a lot to do all the heavy thinking and getting out of the problems. But again, like I said, Fozzie, he's funny, and he is Kermit's sidekick too. And when they go to Fozzie's house for Christmas, he introduces his mom as my partner and best friend, Kermit the Frog. So Fozzie again is a true friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is a good friend, and like I said, no, you can't, no matter what happens, he always, comes back no matter what. So, definitely worth a mention here. All right, well, I'll go ahead and give Miranda's first pick here. Has not been some of that has not been mentioned yet, and again, kind of the I don't want to say the third. I guess the third in the pecking order when it comes to the Muppets. But I know this character, obviously one of the again, very recognizable character just because of everything he goes through, and that is Gonzo, or as he was known, of course, on the Muppet Show, Gonzo the Great. Obviously, he was kind of the daredevil of the group, always trying to do these big elaborate stunts on the show, and then in the movies, he was always kind of, the comic relief alongside his chicken Camilla. And again, just another very recognizable character, from his, blue skin to, of course, the big nose, and just another character that always, that always provided a lot of laughs, because of, again, his antics and his distinct look. Andy also had Gonzo on his list, and Greenie, you had him on your list as well.
Yes, I love seeing when Gonzo shoots himself out of the cannonball, and he thinks he has all the great ideas, and they're not so great. And again, he ends up either like getting hurt, or it's like he says the wrong thing or does the wrong thing, and there are consequences to what he does too. He also finds himself in a bit of a jam in like some of the movies too, like getting thrown out of a window, or like just stretched out too. If you go back to the WWE Muppets on Raw, they stretched him out too. So Gonzo finds himself in situations though, but again, he is comic relief too, and he's always funny with his chicken Camilla too. So yeah, Gonzo makes my list because I like a daredevil in him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, the Muppets were on Raw. That was a interesting episode. There.
Yep.
Yeah, seeing the superstars interact with all the characters, but no, that was a good episode. Yeah. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and give my next entry here, and this character's made me kind of he's an interesting one. I know he's probably not everybody's favorite, but for some reason I always liked him. Maybe just because of his musical ability, and I went with Rolf the dog. Obviously, the piano player of the group. He's always there on the on the keys, and he always could provide a good tune whenever necessary. Of course, he had his the veterinarian's hospital segment on the Muppet Show, so that kind of helped make him one of the bigger stars. And yeah, always kind of liked Ralph, and he was just one of those characters that may not be as remembered as, say, like a Kermit or a Fozzie, but I think he's definitely one that's just as crucial to the Muppets as any of the other ones. Unfortunately, he did not make anybody else's list. But did you have anything else to say about Ralph the Dog, Rooney?
Growing up, I never got into Ralph the Dog until I watched some of the movies he was in. Again, he's great for playing his piano. He's always on key. And yeah, Ralph the Dog, great musician.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and go back to Miranda for her next one here. This is kind of an interesting one because he was not amongst the group when they originally started. He came along in the mid '90s. She went with Pepe the King Prawn, who had made his debut on the Muppets Tonight Show, like I said, in the mid '90s. And again, kind of he's one I don't totally remember that much. He's again one of those comic relief characters, similar to like a Rizzo the Rat or someone's like that. He obviously, after his debut, he would make a lot more appearances in future TV shows and movies. But excuse me, again, he's not one that I totally remember a ton of. He's one of those ones you don't remember if you don't know the name. Once you see him, you'll kind of realize oh yeah, I know what he looks like now. So. Just again, one of those kind of newer characters that's kind of become a lot more synonymous with the Muppets in recent years. Andy did have him as an honorable mention. I did not have him, nor did you, Gurney. But did you have anything else to say about Pepe the King Prawn?
No, but I think he was a background character in A Muppet Christmas Carol, I believe, and I feel like I can picture him, but I just do not remember that character, nor do I really pay attention to what I call the background Muppets. If they're not shown right in front of me, I wouldn't recognize them.
Mm. Yeah. He debuted in '96, and A Muppet Christmas Carol came out in '92. So he would not have been in that one.
Okay, well, then I was wrong. I mean, granted, 96 is only 4 years old, as we know that from our other pod that we did for No So 95. Yep.
Yeah. just making me feel old.
Yep, I make everybody feel old. Yeah.
I think the only one who doesn't feel old is would be Logan, because I think you and him are around the same. You're around the same age, so
yeah, the same age graph. Yeah, demographic. Right. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and give Andy's last one here, and he kind of gives, like I said, when you think of the Muppets, there's that, you obviously think of Kermit, Fozzie, Gonzo, and then of course you think about one of the lone females in the group, and that's of course Miss Piggy. I kind of go back and forth on her. I think she's, obviously a very endearing character. She kind of, her relationship with Kermit's kind of one of those ones, like if it was on Facebook, it'd be listed as it's complicated because they're romantic couple one time, then they're just, they're just friends another time. And, obviously she, of course, came to prominence on the Muppet Show with the Pigs in Space segment, the Pigs in Space. And then, like I said, the constant relationship with Kermit. Excuse me. Of course, her, one of her iconic moves whenever somebody, makes her mad, she of course does the karate chop with the hi-ya! Again, which, one of those, again, just very memorable. And, again, when you think of the Muppets, I'm sure, she's definitely up there. Like I said, she's one of the only females in the group. There's only a couple of other ones, but she's definitely, just because, again, of her, longevity and the relationship with Kermit, that makes her, again, one of the more memorable characters in terms of the Muppets. I had her as an honorable mention, but Miranda didn't have her, and neither did you, Gurney. But did you have anything else to say about Miss Piggy?
Yeah, Miss Piggy, I was going back and forth. It seems like it's the obvious answer though, but I really did some like deep dive into like picking this. And I've wanted to leave Miss Piggy off because I find her to be a bully a lot. Like she does have bully like bully attributes, and that even goes back to like it sounds dumb to say when they were babies on Muppet Babies. Yes, Miss Piggy is a bully to Gonzo and to some of the Muppets too, and yeah, she could be a bully and a pushover to Kermit as well.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yes.
she's definitely the most boisterous of the group. I will definitely say that. Well, Greenie, you have one entry left on your Mount Rushmore, so why don't you let us know what it is?
Yeah, so I don't know if this is a wild card or not, but I decided to go with Animal. I enjoy Animal. I enjoy like the wild and crazy one, kind of like Gonzo. It almost seemed like he was like a Gonzo sidekick, but not really until Rizzo the Rat came along. But Animal, I just loved like the destructiveness too. It almost reminded me of Tasmanian Devil and just destroying things and like breaking breaking stuff. But Animal's drums he was very very good on the drums too. But I just enjoyed like as a kid just destruction and things like getting torn apart or something, and that's where Animal comes in too. So that's why Animal makes my Mount Rushmore, for his destructiveness and for the drums.
Hmm. Yeah, Miranda had him on her list as well. I had him as an honorable mention, as did Andy. Yeah, he's definitely, again, when you think of memorable Muppets, he's one you think of just because, again, of his manic energy, his destructiveness, his drum playing, and kind of interesting that he's the only member of the of Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem. That when you think of that group, you immediately think of Animal. And not the remaining members of the group, which kind of feel bad for them. But I mean, it's just, again, Animal's just so, just wild and crazy, and just his yelling and his the weird talking that he does, and even like you brought up the Muppet Babies, even on that show, he was the only one of the Dr. Teeth group that he was on that show. So again, and he had such memorable moments on there. Of course, one of the running through of the running, I don't say running gag, but every Muppet Baby episode always ended with him getting Gonzo into a bad situation, and then of course he always closed the show with his "Go bye bye," and again, just very very memorable character as Animal, and I could definitely see why you had him on your Mount Rushmore. Like I said, he just missed mine. He would probably be like my number 5 behind my 4, but definitely belongs up there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Miranda had one more on her Mount Rushmore, so I will go ahead and mention him. He's definitely one of the more eclectic characters on the history of the Muppets, and that's the Swedish Chef. Obviously, making all his weird food items, and his very broken Swedish, but just the way he delivered it, just always, was so hilarious. And it's like, you knew it wasn't actual Swedish, but you just bought into it enough that maybe he was actually talking Swedish. And again, just one of those very memorable characters. You always, you recognize him immediately with his little like chef's hat, the big mustache, the chef's outfit, and he's just one of those characters that's always just very, very memorable, just based on his energy, his antics, and his distinct voice. I had him as an honorable mention, as did Andy. But Greenie, did you have anything else to say about the Swedish Chef?
Yeah, he is very funny. I didn't really see a lot of Swedish Chef until the Muppets Family Christmas movie. But yeah, the Swedish accent was very, very funny. Him just like cooking stuff and just trying to communicate like what he was going to make was very funny as well.
Yeah, it was. And it led to some really good jokes on and everything. So, So I can see why Miranda had him. All right, well, I have one entry left here, and I'm kind of going to cheat a bit and actually have a pair because you're like with these two, you can't have one without the other. And I referenced them earlier as being kind of foils to Fozzie on the Muppet Show, and that's of course everyone's favorite geriatric pair of Statler and Waldorf. Everyone remembers these were the two old gentlemen we would always see up in the balcony, just constantly throwing their barbs at, insulting the show, throwing their barbs at Fozzie, throwing their barbs at Kermit, just kind of, just the ultimate. They're basically the equivalent of the old man on the porch being like that, get off my lawn, you damn kids. That was basically them. And they would, be very prominent throughout the rest of the Muppets history, always appearing on the shows. They had a great in the Muppets Christmas Carol. They of course were the Marley brothers, which was the first time that Jacob Marley had a brother that you never saw before. And even in the modern day when they had their own little like web series where they were like trying to figure out the computer and everything. It just these two old guys were just definitely great. Just great foils for the show, kind of serving again as the grummy old geezers that were just mad at life and just didn't want anybody else to have fun. And I've been doing a lot of looking back at like the Muppets, and they're ones that I've become a lot more appreciative of just for their humor and for their the characters that they were. Miranda had them as an honorable mention, as did Andy. But Gurney, did you have anything else to say about Statler and Waldorf?
I thought growing up they were bullies and just like very, very mean to Fozzie and to the rest of the gang. But I understand their shtick now, and I find them very funny too. And we'll talk about it too when we get to the next segment. But they were funny in Muppets Family Christmas as well too.
Mm-hmm. And funny note, in case anybody didn't know, they're both named after hotels in New York City. The Statler Hilton and then the Waldorf Astoria. Which, funny enough, there was an episode of the Muppet Show where Statler wasn't there, so Waldorf brought his wife, which was basically Statler in drag, but it wasn't it wasn't said that it was Statler. It was just implied that it was just Waldorf's wife, and his wife's name was Astoria, and obviously filling the joke there. And I loved how when Kermit asked about it, and Waldorf said what her name was, Kermit just turns to the camera, deadpan's like, "Oh, that figures." So again, just a nice little inside joke there, because obviously, as everyone knows, the Muppets are all about inside jokes. So so I thought that was funny. All right, well, that will conclude the main list here for the characters, but we'll go ahead now and talk about some honorable mentions. I only had two other ones I didn't mention. Another kind of one of those just characters that kind of served as a foil for the Muppets. Sam the Eagle, who was definitely he's kind of like a more like low key version of Statler and Waldorf, where he never liked being there at the show. He was always just kind of grumpy and everything. It's in the Muppet Family Christmas. He only has two lines, but they're so good. He's like, when everyone arrives to Mama Bear's house, and he's just like, "Why am I here?" Just so deadpan. And then again, during when the Sesame Street characters are doing like their rendition of "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," and the two-headed monster comes out at Santa, and you just cut to Sam, and he's just like, "Is nothing sacred?" Just so funny. And then he of course has a prominent role in Muppets Most Wanted, where he's like the partner of the detectives. So another kind of fun character. And then another pair that I think again, you can't have one without the other. That's of course Dr. Benson Honeydew and Beaker. Again, Honeydew, always, behind his, with his inventions, and poor Beaker being the recipient of the back of the when the inventions don't go to plan. And again, another great, because you mentioned that that episode of Raw. Of course, who can forget the great meeting up with Sheamus and Beaker, and Sheamus like, no, I can't come to the family reunion because that was like a joke made at Sheamus's expense, and he just ran with it. So like, just an absolute, just really, really funny. I thought that was great. And again, two more characters very synonymous with the Muppets, and again, very distinct looks. You have like Honeydew with like the big glasses and the no eyes, which I thought was always weird. And then of course Beaker, like I said, with the red hair. Before I get to Andy and Miranda's, did you have anything else to say about either Sam the Eagle or Honeydew and Beaker?
Oh yeah, Beaker on that segment of Raw was so funny, and Sheamus like, no, but tell Aunt Maria I said hello, and then they fix up Beaker's hair too to be Sheamus's like hair as well. So that was pretty funny. Yes, Beaker has been the recipient of all of Bunson's inventions too. It's like, gotta feel sorry for him because he can't really talk, but he could communicate well. I'm like, no, but it's like, oh, it'll be fine, don't worry about it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and give. Let's see. I'll go with Miranda's next, so she doesn't have that many. She also had Sam the Eagle as well. She also had another newer Muppet, Walter, who of course was introduced in the 2011 Muppets film. Again, kind of bringing in the new generation of fans to the Muppets, and then she also did include a few Sesame Street characters, because like I said, when this universe does involve Sesame Street as well. So she had Elmo, who he became a phenomenon in the 90s. Like, it was insane how over he got. Like, and of course everyone remembers when the Tickle Me Elmo was the hottest toy on the planet. Anyone who had to go had to try to find that for Christmas, will probably relive the nightmares of that. She also had Count Von Count. Of course, everyone's favorite vampire who just loves to count things. And again, just another really great, recognizable voice. And of course, everyone remembers his laugh, the just again, very recognizable. And then of course, another pair that you can't have one without the other. And that's of course, Bert and Ernie. Again, just, Bert, the straight man, to Ernie's, crazy antics. And they just made such a perfect pair together. And again, when you think of Sesame Street, those are probably the two of the characters you automatically think of. So, did you have anything to say about some of those characters I mentioned, whether it be like Walter, Elmo, the Count, or Bert and Ernie?
Walter, I never really understood, and we'll talk more about that as when we get to the movie section of this episode here. Elmo was fantastic, especially for the kids. It felt like he made playtime fun. And again, he got his own movie, and it seemed like he got his own world and segment basically called Elmo's World. Elmo was one of a kind too, very caring, very just fun and energetic to be around with. Bert and Ernie were great as well, and of course, you had the Count who taught you how to count things. But Bert and Ernie. Bert again being the old grumpy guy, and Ernie's just trying to get him to laugh at anything too. And the rubber ducky and everything. It felt like Ernie was like, "Oh, take a bath, kids. Taking baths is fun."
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, now we'll go to Andy, because he has quite a bunch here.
Of course he does.
Well, so he did. Well, just so we don't repeat. So he had Honeydew and Beaker. He had Sam the Eagle, and he didn't have Bert. He just had Ernie. So I guess he kind of preferred Ernie to Bert. But some of the ones he has that we didn't talk about here. He has New Zealand, who I think is the one with the black hair, and he looks like the I'm trying to think of it. He's the one that, if you watched the Muppets Take Manhattan, he's the one that's in the movie theater throwing the fish at the screen, and then they boomerang back to the audience for the for the 3D effects. So, so that's how I remember him. He does have two other Sesame Street characters, Grover, who I've always liked Grover, kind of one of those, characters that you don't really think about a lot of being a great character. And then, of course, the ultimate get off my lawn character, Oscar the Grouch. Just, again, such a memorable character, just a mean old geezer sitting in his trash can, just hating life and hating everything. He also had Rizzo the Rat. Another one I mentioned briefly, but who kind of became, I won't say unofficially became Gonzo's sidekick, but one that kind of became synonymous with Gonzo, particularly in Muppet Christmas Carol. And then two other ones here, kind of, maybe under the radar ones here. He has Sweetums, who he was the one from the Muppet movie who kept trying to chase after everyone when they left him behind, and then of course the very end of when they're watching the movie, he crashes through the screen. That was kind of like his moment. And then he had the this one that you're only going to know if you watch the Muppet Show, and that's the Menomina character. The Menomina, which was from, I think, the very first episode. So those are the ones Andy had. Did you have anything to say about those characters here before we move on?
Grover always sounded like maybe that uncle who always tried to get you to do the right thing, or try to always be like very important, the important person in some segments. Oscar the Grouch was always funny too, because again, he's a grouch, he's gonna tell you to get off his lawn or don't bother him. It was always fun, like trying to get Oscar into like the holiday spirit as well, because he's a grouch too when it comes to everything. Yeah, just very, very good honorable mentions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually, I'm going to go ahead because I'm kind of surprised that none of us mentioned these two when you talk about the Sesame Street characters. Because when you think Sesame Street, you first got to think Big Bird. He's probably the most memorable character on that show. And then, of course, another very memorable Sesame Street character. Who doesn't love Cookie Monster and his obsession of cookies? So I wanted to give those guys those two some love as well, since none of us had mentioned them here. All right. Well, normally this is the point in the show where we would take a quick break and kind of come back around, but we're actually not going to. We're going to skew that for here. We're going to jump right into our second segment here, where we're going to now be talking Muppet TV shows and films. And the reason I kind of combined the two is because, looking them up, there really weren't enough of either one to kind of merit separate Mount Rushmores. So I figured we just kind of throw them all, it'd be easier to just throw them together, since they all, I don't want to say interchangeable, but it just kind of, I think, makes it a little bit easier. So we're going to start off here. I'm actually going to start off with Miranda's first one here, and we've, again, referenced it a couple times here. And that's the Muppet Christmas Carol, which of course came out in 1992. Starred Michael Caine as Ebenezer Scrooge, and I think this is a version of A Christmas Carol that doesn't get talked about enough, doesn't get the love that it deserves. It's a really great, I think it's a really great adaptation. The Muppets in it are really good. Because you have, Kermit as Cratchit. You have, we mentioned Statler Waldorf as Jacob and Robert Marley. Again, Robert. No, there is no Robert Marley in the actual novel, but because you have to keep the two together, he was kind of creative for that. You have Fozzie as Fezziwig, or Fozziewig as he was called. You have Robin the Frog, kind of another character we didn't talk about, as Tiny Tim. And I think what really put this over the top was when Michael Caine was hired to do the movie. He basically told Brian Henson, who directed it, he said, "I'm going to play this film like I would be doing, like if it was a Shakespeare production. I'm not going to, do any like winking. I'm not going to acknowledge that I'm, talking to puppets. I'm going to treat this as it is a legitimate film." And I think that's what really makes it work. What makes this and all the other Muppet films and shows work is that, it can be easy to kind of, be too inside when you're dealing with these puppets, but if you just if you go all in with it and just play it like it's a regular thing, I think it just makes it a lot better. And I think Michael Caine did a great job in kind of in showing that in this film. And like I said, it's a really fun film. It's got some really fun songs in it, and is again, like I said, probably one of those versions of a Christmas Carol that you don't normally think about. Andy had it as an honorable mention, as did I. But Gurney, did you have anything else to say about A Muppet Christmas Carol?
Yeah. I cherish this movie more now than I did back when I was a kid because I just didn't like it. It slipped off my radar. Like I was sort of introduced to it, but I didn't watch it all the way through. And I was like, I don't really know if I like what I really think of this movie. But as I got older and really watched it, I was like, oh, it's not that bad. So yeah, it's a passable grade for me. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and give my first entry here, and we are going to be sticking with the films here. And this is I kind of referenced it earlier about bringing in the new generation. So I went with the Muppets film from 2011. This, of course, is the one, like I said, that introduced Walter to everyone. But of course, it starred Jason Segel, who also co-wrote the screenplay for the film, and also Amy Adams, who I thought the two of them did a really phenomenal job in this film. And again, it's just one of those, great, we got a great story behind it where the Muppet Studio is going to go under. So all the Muppets come back together after some time apart, and they put on this, this telethon. You have a lot of good, really fun cameos in it. Jack Black, Zach Galifianakis, Alan Arkin, Ken Jeong, Sarah Silverman, Donald Glover, and a couple of other ones. Emily Blunt, Whoopi Goldberg, Selena Gomez, Dave Grohl, just so many good appearances here. And again, like I said, after kind of being out of the spotlight for a while, because this was actually the first Muppets film since '99, I thought it was a good opportunity to kind of bring the Muppets back into pop culture, and again, kind of served as the introduction for Walter, but also kind of, like I said, just help bring the Muppets back into prominence, and again help introduce a new generation to them. So, that's why I wanted to kind of give that some love. And Andy had it on his Mount Rushmore as well. Miranda didn't, and neither did you, Grooney. But did you have anything to say about the 2011 Muppets film?
Actually, Steve, I think I did. Actually, I was called the Muppet Movie, right? Yeah.
Oh,
again.
When you put the Muppet Movie, I thought you meant the 1979 film.
Oh, well, I should have wrote 2011. Yeah, that's what I meant. My bad. I thought that's funny too. I was like, oh snap! I forgot to put in parentheses 2011. So I was like, I'm pretty sure it's called the Muppet Movie 2 or the whatever it was called. What is the actual Muppet movie called? Is it called Muppet Movie?
It was just called The Muppets.
Oh, that's why. Oh, okay, yeah. No, I'm sorry. Yes, I do have the Muppets as my pick. Sorry about that for the confusion. This movie, like you said, Steve, it brought back the Muppets too. Because I felt like everybody was taking a break. They weren't really featured on television. Disney would also try and bring back the Muppets too as their own shorts and stuff. But again, ever since Muppets in Space, that was their last film, kind of grew out of the Muppets. But again, it's the Muppets. So when they were coming back, I was like, oh, let's just watch it for fun. And it was very, very fun and entertaining too. Jason Segel's funny in it. He plays the older brother too, in actual puppet, because he's not a Muppet yet, or he is, I don't know. And again, funniest part about all the Muppet movies is that the bear is always on the bad guy's side. But yeah, it was just fun to bring them back too, and how they got Gonzo back was hilarious too. He blew up his own toilet factory, and Kermit the Frog just getting the gang back together. And then Rolf's like, "Well, why didn't you go over my story?" Hey, Rolf, you want to be a part of? Want to get the group back together? Okay, sure. Yes.
Yeah. And of course, you had the great song "Man or Muppet," which which won the Academy Award for Best Original Song that year. So, maybe the pickings were slim, but it is a good song. Yeah. Well, since
The whole the whole kidnapping of Jack Black was hilarious too, and how they kidnapped him to be the host of the Muppet Show. And when and it's also funny when Kermit the Frog is opening up the theater again, he goes through his old like phone book catalog, Molly Ringwald, and all these other things too. It's like that's a callback because now you don't have to go through that little pamphlet or phone book to find people. It's so easier now.
Yeah, and I mentioned one of the cameo appearances, Dave Grohl, who of course was Animal, who basically was he was basically Animal cosplay of that, and then I also mentioned Emily Blunt, who basically just reprised her character from the film The Devil Wears Prada. So again, kind of these we got these cool little cameos in there. Well, since we did mention it, I'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and just talk about it, of course, because it was on Andy's main Mount Rushmore. That is the original Muppet movie from 1979. Was their debut on the big screen after being after the Muppet Show had been on the air for about 2 years by that point. Basically, kind of serving as an origin story where the group comes together to form their own do their own movie. Again, you have some really good cameo appearances in here. You have Charles During as the great Doc Hopper, the main villain of the film, who wants Kermit to be the spokesperson for his I think his restaurant, which sells frog legs, which don't know why he think Kermit would want to do that. Again, you got like Dom DeLuise, Madeline Kahn, Milton Berle, Elliot Gould, Bob Hope, Richard Pryor, Steve Martin, Mel Brooks. I mean, these are some big names for the time showing up in this film for these cameos here. And of course, you got some iconic songs in here. The Rainbow Connection, Moving Right Along, and again, just kind of it's just one of those, like, it was a great step towards from the TV to the big screen for the Muppets, and it's just one of those just a great film for the time, and just one that's like I said, if you weren't familiar with the Muppet Show, this was a good way to introduce the Muppets to a more broader audience that maybe didn't watch the show at the time, or didn't have the ability to watch the show. I had it as an honorable mention. Miranda didn't have it, surprisingly enough. But Rooney, did you have anything else to say about the original Muppet movie?
No, and this wasn't on my list. I tried watching it. It felt very odd with all like the cameos and stuff. I mean, yeah, granted, the Muppet Show was based off of who their special guest was and stuff too, but this one, I really tried to watch it, and I was like, okay, not my style of Muppet movie.
Yeah, it is very interesting. And I think one that's maybe not be for everybody, but I think it's if you're a Muppet fan, I think you definitely want to at least see once in your life. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and now go back to Miranda for her next film, and she does have she has a Sesame Street based film on here. She went with The Adventures of Elmo in Grouchland, which came out in 1999. I'll be honest, I'm not very familiar with this one. When it comes to Sesame Street films, the one I remember a lot was Follow That Bird, which came out in 85, because I do remember seeing that when I was a kid. But yeah, I'm not too familiar with this one. I think it was, obviously to kind of capitalize on the popularity of Elmo at that time, because like I said, he was becoming a very popular character in the 90s. And again, just kind of, just one of those ones where he goes on an adventure to try to help Oscar. You get all your famous, characters in here. You get all the Sesame Street humans that everyone knows. So, again, just, I think one of those ones where if you are a Sesame Street fan and you're an Elmo fan, this is definitely one that you're going to enjoy. I did not have it on my list. Neither did Andy, nor did you, Grooney. But did you have anything else to say about Elmo and Grouchland?
By the time it was 1999, I was way too old to be watching Sesame Street. I do remember when it came out, so I guess they were trying to capitalize on how great of a character Elmo was. Elmo also has like a TV movie about like him on Christmas. It's not Christmas on Sesame Street. It was like a different one where like the main focus was Elmo too. Maybe that was a PBS special, but the movie, the movie I'm really associated with Sesame Street was Christmas on Sesame Street. So I'll talk about that when we get to the honorable mentions. But again, I was way too old to be watching Sesame Street in 1999. I was around 7. I mean, you could get away with it, but no, I was like watching other things on TV. But yeah, if it did make the movies, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, Grooney, why don't you go ahead and give us the next entry on your Mount Rushmore?
So mine were all Muppet movies, but this one, well, actually, no, I have one Muppet TV show, and it was, of course, what was I going to say? It was, of course, Muppet Babies, because that was on Nick Jr., and I don't think it was the first time I was introduced to Muppets, but it was very close to me on how like I got sort of introduced to the Muppets too. Besides watching the movies, Muppet Babies was on Nick Jr. During the old lineups too. Like it might have been on like its last leg of reruns, or might have been producing new episodes. I don't know, but Muppet Babies was very fun. You know, it was like. It felt like it was the original, like Rugrats almost, because they were doing adventures too, and you had the bravery in Kermit. You know, you had like not the bossy boots, but like the girl Muppet in Miss Piggy, Gonzo and Fozzie too, really sticking to their shtick of their grown up characters. You know, Fozzie trying to tell jokes, Gonzo always getting himself into a hole here, and Kermit being the leader, and Animal destroying things too. So Muppet Babies was very, very, very fun for me too, and the intro was very, very catchy too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. I had this as an album mention, as did Andy. Of course, we both had the original, the 1984 cartoon. Of course, it was rebooted in 2018 on Disney Junior as a 3D animated cartoon. But this is the one I remember the most. And just again seeing these young. I mean, because for those that remember the inspiration for this was spun off of another Muppet film. That we'll probably talk about here shortly, but yeah, just seeing them get into all these different situations, and really expanding on their imaginations, and really kind of taking existing properties and kind of bringing them into this world. Like there's the one where they were did their own version of the Wizard of Oz, and they even did Star Wars. And I mean, and there were some and it's funny, kind of looking back, I never realized this, but some pretty interesting names here to the voices. Like I never realized that Howie Mandel was there on the first 2 seasons. He voiced Skeeter, Animal, and Bunsen, and then even more crazy, the fact that Uncle Joey, Full House fame, David Coulier, did a bunch of voices from season 3 through 8. So,
wow. I wonder if he got that. He probably did Skeeter first, but I wonder if Skeeter was his inspiration to do Bobby from Bobby's World as well, because he always had that interesting voice. Howie Mandel did, so I was wondering if he did that first, and then he did Bobby's voice for Bobby's World too. But also, Steve, you never saw Nanny's face; you only saw her from the knees. Like the legs, and they never showed her face. And when Nanny always came in, oh, we're playing nice. Yep, everything's fine.
Yeah, but I think it worked because it showed it from like the baby's perspective, and I think that's why
yes.
And you can kind of see them take that, how Rugrats kind of took the same inspiration. Now, of course, in Rugrats we saw all the adults' faces. As opposed to here, like you said, where we never saw Nanny's face. But yeah, just another really again, just a memorable TV show, and kind of seeing the Muppets in a way that I don't think anybody probably would have ever expected too. So yeah, definitely deserve that. All right, well, I'll go ahead and give my next entry, and we'll stay in the realm of TV and go with the show that basically started it all, and that's, of course, the original Muppet Show. Of course, started in 1977, or 1976, I apologize. Again, just, one of those, just, every episode we had all these different, vignettes and these skits introducing all these different characters. You have Kermit as like the ringleader, Fozzie being the stand-up comedian, Scooter, who we learned that his uncle owned that theater, trying to keep everything in line. Statler and Waldorf in the balcony, constantly complaining. Again and again, all the various, people that, guest hosts that came on. I mean, again, these were some very big names for the mid to late 70s that they were able to bring on for this show. And again, they all brought their own their own spin onto their episode. They were not afraid to have some have some fun, poke some fun at themselves. And I think it just really brought to everyone the brilliance of Jim Henson. That he was able to help, that he created all these different characters, created this world in essence, and really kind of made him into a household name just as much as the actual characters themselves on the show. So I think he deserves a hell of a lot of credit for that. Andy had it on his Mount Rushmore. Miranda had it as a honorable mention. And Grinny, did you have anything else to say about the Muppet Show?
I was way too young to even watch the Muppet Show, and it was off the air, obviously. But again, if that's what kicked off the Muppets, then besides Jim Henson, obviously, then they went in the right direction for it, because what's an idea became a phenomenon for the Muppets. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, definitely. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and give Miranda's next one here, and we're staying in the realm of TV for this one. Kind of more of a weirder version of the Muppets. Kind of one of those, just crazy TV shows that was out there at the time. She went with Fraggle Rock. Again, kind of one of those. I think this show definitely felt a lot more out there than the Muppets did. Obviously, just because of the the various characters we got on this show, as opposed to what we saw on like the Muppet Show. I'll be honest, I didn't watch a ton of Fraggle Rock. I knew of it a little bit. I knew more of them from another show that we're probably going to talk about here soon. I know they did get their own animated series in '87, but I think again they're just one of those ones where if you didn't watch it, I think you don't have a fuller appreciation of it. And I know, like I said, Miranda obviously had it, so she definitely, she definitely loved it. So it did not make anybody else's list, not mine or Andy's or yours, but. Did you have anything to say about Fraggle Rock?
I was surprised that this was a Jim Henson production. We'll talk more about it if anyone has it on the movie side of where their appearance comes. Not really my favorite. I've looked it up and I was like, no, not really. Not really mine.
Yeah, like I said, it's probably a lot more. That's a lot more niche than the Muppets are, I think. So, all right, well, I'll go ahead and give my next one here, and this one is a very personal one for me because it's one of my favorite Muppet films of all time, and really kind of the first Muppet film I ever watched with these characters, and that's the Muppets Take Manhattan. It was the third film featuring the Muppets, almost kind of. I would say it was a retcon, but it definitely kind of kind of steered away from what we saw in the first Muppet film, and that all the Muppets were all college student and friends. They created of course, their own production, Manhattan Melodies, and then decided to try to take it to Broadway, and we saw to various poor results. Eventually, they would go their separate ways while Kermit tried to, put everything together. Of course, we had the little third line where Kermit actually suffered amnesia and forgot who he was for a brief time there, and everyone had to come back together to help get his memory back. And then eventually, they are able to get on Broadway, perform their show, and of course, it concludes with Kermit and Piggy's wedding, which features all the characters over history, the Muppets, Sesame Street, just in this like big cornucopia of just seeing all these characters. The main cast, not too many familiar names, but you'd still have your some pretty big cameo stars. You had Joan Rivers, Brooke Shields, Liza Minnelli, Elliot Gould, James Coco, Art Carney. So again, some pretty big names, in terms of the cameos here. And I did mention that it was actually, and I did mention a film inspiring the Muppet Babies. It was actually this film, because if for those that remember, there's this part where Kermit and Piggy are taking like a buggy ride through Central Park, and Piggy makes an offhanded comment about what it'd be like if they were babies, and then we get this big flashback.
Yeah, so we do get a flashback of the Muppet Babies, and that's how it gets started. I had this on my list for I had this on my list for great movies here. It's the Muppets Take Manhattan. My favorite part was when Miss Piggy gets her purse stolen, and she she gets her purse back, and then she's there with Kermit, accusing him of all these things, hitting on Jenny, and she goes to the guy. Oh, he was giving her the willies or whatever, and he goes, "You gave her the willies?" So yeah, it was a very funny thing. It had very good songs here. It had Together Again, and it also had the Saying Goodbye song, which is like the saddest too, the Muppets splitting off and everything. So it was a very, very sad time too, but they get back together. So yeah, it was a very great movie.
This movie did make Gruny your Mount Rushmore. So did you have anything else to say about the Muppets Take Manhattan?
Yes, this one I really enjoy. It has two like interesting songs too. One that's very happy and one that's very sad. Obviously, the happy one is Together Again, where the Muppets like get back together. Well, they don't get back together at first. It's like it's part of the Manhattan Melodies, but it comes into play after this song, which is Saying Goodbye, and so it really is just so sad, especially when Scooter goes, "Saying goodbye, why is it sad?" And just everything that goes into that song too. Fozzie Bear going into hibernation as well. But again, they get back together, and Kermit trying to be the agent for Manhattan Melodies, like on his phone too, acting like a big shot, was even more funny. But I have to say, Steve, the funniest part to me, one of the funniest parts in the movies, there's two. It's when the chef of the restaurant tells Rizzo and the rest of the rats they can go to work, and Kermit doesn't have a job. But this one, I think, takes the cake. They're in Central Park before the horse ride. Miss Piggy's purse gets stolen, and she gets it back. And then she accuses Kermit of hitting on hitting it off with Jenny and everything. And there's the guy, the roller skater too, and the Miss Piggy goes, he gave her the willies or whatever, and the rollerblader goes, you gave Jenny the willies, man? He's like, how could you do that? I forget it, but I thought it was the funniest thing, like somebody like accusing Kermit the Frog of being a two-timer.
It was the Huggies that she said about.
The Huggies! Oh, jeez! You gave her the Huggies?
Yeah. That's that scene of her on the skates trying to chase after the pickpocket was pretty funny too, and when Kermit comes to the diner and then Pete, the owner, he's like rats want frog, frog want frog, rats want job, frog want job. What next? Penguins? And then a bunch of penguins come in and it's like, you got a job for us? And they're like, no. And like, well, excuse us for living. The penguins always coming in inopportune moments there. But yeah, it is but again, just a really fun film. Fun film. All right, well, I'll go ahead and give Andy's last one here, and I think he said on a couple of occasions that this film is his favorite Muppet film of all time, and that's the film that preceded the Muppets Take Manhattan, the second film featuring them, and that's The Great Muppet Caper. This is the film where Kermit and Fozzie become reporters. Gonzo's their photographer, and they end up going on a hunt to find these missing jewels. Again, kind of I don't know how it follows the canon of the first film. But again, you got some good names in here: Diana Rigg, Charles Grodin, Michael Robbins, and then again your cameo appearances. Not as many in this one though. But you got John Cleese. Peter Falk, Jim Henson himself makes an appearance. So again, just one of those. Again, just I think it's. I can't say if I've only seen it. It's been like one time, and I don't really have that much of a real memory behind it. But I know, like I said, Andy has said it's his favorite film. So maybe I'll have to try to go back and watch it one time, just to see if I do have any memories of it. It did not make anybody else's. Actually, no, it did make mine as a honorable mention. Miranda didn't have it, and neither did Drew Grooney. But did you have anything else to say about The Great Muppet Caper?
I watched it once like you did, and I was like, oh, okay, this is sort of funny. Like, the Miss Piggy getting accused of taking diamonds, and of course, Detective Kermit and Fozzie Bear are on the case. So I have to go and rewatch it to see if it was that good of a movie or not, too, because I really enjoyed Muppets Take Manhattan. This one, again, have to go rewatch it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll go now and give Miranda's last one here, and again, kind of one that's maybe not as remembered, but again, but like I said, it was the last film the Muppets were in before the 2011 film. She went with Muppets from Space. This came out in '99. It basically it basically introduces aliens into the Muppet world, which again is kind of one of those interesting aspects. Of course, Gonzo is pretty much the star of this film, because it's always been implied that he's not of this world. He's been called whatever. He's been called a weirdo. He's maybe been called an alien. So again, kind of bringing that into the fold. Again, some good star power here: Jeffrey Tambor, Rob Schneider, Andy McDowell, and then again your cameo appearances. Again, not many here, but a few of them. You have David Arquette, Ray Liotta, Kathy Griffin, Katie Holmes, and also everyone remembers, of course, this featured appearance from one Hulk Hogan. I think during one of his times there, he was away from WCW. He went to do this film, and he's actually credited as Hollywood Hogan, because this was still when he was a heel, which I think is interesting. But again, probably one of those ones where I think I may have seen once, just don't have a ton of memories behind it. So again, probably one that maybe I have to go back and give another watch here. This one did not make anybody else's list. But Gurney, did you have anything else to say about Muppets from Space?
I know I don't give you my honorable mentions, but I would put this one as an honorable mention for me, and I'll give another one when you actually do the honorable mentions. It's funny, it's cute, Gonzo's. It starts off with Gonzo actually playing Noah's Ark, and he has to bring two of every animal. He's like, well, wait a minute, my own species. I don't even have a second one of me. He's like, well, you can't come on the boat then. And he gets left behind, and the cereal's like telling him, oh, look out in the sky too. And very funny. Very funny stuff here as well as it starts off when everyone's like waking up. You have Brick House by the Commodores playing in the background too. So very funny stuff. And then the I think it's like the lobster one. It's not the chef. He goes, oh, well, now instead of breakfast, it's bologna sandwiches. They're like, ew. Well, we'll skip breakfast. So yeah, another one where the Muppets all live together. Funny thing about this movie, it's in the book The Death of WCW. They're like, oh, well, you're probably wondering, why isn't Hulk Hogan here during this time period? He was filming Muppets in Space. No, that isn't a typo. He was really filming Muppets in Space.
Yes, he was, and maybe it was a good thing he wasn't there, because we all know Hogan in 98, 99, maybe not his best, not his best time. Yeah.
No. Nope.
Yeah. Although maybe you can argue, I know our buddies Scott Shiflett and Logan Crosland are, of course, going through the Vince Russo era of WCW on Are You Smarter Than Russo's WCW on the Backbone feed, and I think they're getting close to when during that time when Hogan was was there and having his feud with Billy Kidman. So
yeah. Hogan's returning, yeah. So, yeah, filming Muppets in Space, yeah. But, yeah, Muppets in Space was just fun. It was a fun movie.
Yeah. Okay, well, Grooney, you have one entry left on your Mount Rushmore, so why don't you let us know what it is?
Yeah, I don't know if this made anybody else's, but the first time I've watched this was actually on VHS. I borrowed it from one of my friends, and it was very, very cute and fun. It is the Muppets Family Christmas. It starts off with the Muppets going up to Fozzie's mom's house for Christmas too, up in like the old farm with all the snow on the ground and everything. And she's got a big house on her farm. And again, she doesn't know that he's coming. He wants to make it a surprise too. So she's like, oh, I'm going to Malibu for surfing lessons. And again, she's like, oh, I guess I'm not, since Fozzie and all of his friends are here. And she even rented out the cabin, the house to Doc and his dog, Sprocket. But that all changed as well. And it had the Sesame Street and the Fraggle Rocks, all of Jim Henson's creations in one movie, and it had Jim Henson himself, and that would actually be his last appearance before he passed away, which I forget when that was, but that was his last appearance. But it was just so cute, like all the Muppets singing the Christmas carols, and like the huge storm. Is Miss Piggy gonna make it in time for Christmas? You have Gonzo fighting the turkey, and then you have Swedish Chef like trying to cook the turkey, and the turkey's like, no, I'm not the turkey. Please don't cook me. And just all this like camaraderie when all three of Jim Henson's creations are trapped in one house together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was my final entry on my Mount Rushmore as well. I love this special. I remember watching it. I did watch it on TV because I remember we recorded it. My parents, cut it, stopped it when the commercials went, so we didn't get those in there. But we did record it because I remember during the closing credits they did like an ad for I think it was like, it said like Perfect Strangers and Who's the Boss will be back in its regular time next week. So that's you get your time stamp there, the what year it was. But yeah, this is just, again, like you said. What's that? Oh, sorry. I thought you were about to say something, but yeah, this is, again, you got your, all the characters coming together. Like you say, you got the Muppets, you got the Sesame Street characters, the Fraggle Rock characters. You got, poor Doc, being the, having to handle all the, all the chaos. And like, just all the different like through lines throughout this short, Fozzie and the Snowman. Like I said, Swedish Chef trying to cook Big Bird. Kermit worrying if Miss Piggy's going to make it in time because of the snowstorm. And just so many, and a lot of, again, great songs throughout it. You also get, again, a little Muppet Babies cameo in here because the film they watch is of them, as the babies during Christmas. And I love the one comment from the one, I can't remember his name is the guitar player from the Electric Mayhem, where he sees Piggy, he's like, it's Miss Ham Hock when she was just a little sausage roll. I like that. And funny note though is if you look, Piggy's got a Kermit doll, which doesn't really make sense, but I mean,
no,
it's and yeah, it's this is one that's really hard to find because a lot of like later releases of it cut a lot of the songs out because of copyright. So it's like really hard to find a full version of it. I know I know it's on YouTube, and I think they've got a couple of the full versions of it, which is nice to see. And yeah, but just that last bit at the end there, where they're all in they're all in the living room, and they do their little their carol medley is just absolutely phenomenal. And then, like you said, the appearance by Jim Henson at the end there. And he actually, it's weird because he didn't pass away until 1990, so he was alive for 3 more years. So it's kind of crazy that was his last on-screen appearance. But yeah, just a really great TV special. One of the best Christmas specials out there. And just again, one of those just fantastic. I know Andy and Miranda didn't have it on their list. I don't know if I'm sure they had to have seen it, but yeah, I definitely, I'm glad you brought it up because I'm glad somebody else, because I thought I was going to be the only one to mention it, but I'm glad you did at least.
Yeah. It was just a fun Christmas movie for everyone to see. But like he's not cooking Big Bird, he's actually cooking like the other bird too, the bully bird. And then the bully bird like tries to turn the tables like, all right, I might be a turkey, but take a look at this one. He tried to sell Big Bird out to Swedish Chef as well, which is hilarious. And then Big Bird's like, oh, you miss your family, don't you? Like Big Bird has no idea that he was almost going to become turkey dinner.
Yeah, I love when the turkey shows the Swedish Chef Big Bird, and Swedish Chef's like, that's a gobbler humongo. Like,
yeah, and then when Statler and Waldorf come in, and they're like, and they go, what are you doing here? Oh, they're my friends, Fozzie. And Mrs. Bear has no idea how many times Fozzie gets ridiculed by them, and I forget the joke, but they stole the punchline already. Holy smokes.
Yeah, I think it's like Fozzie. It's like, because it's Fozzie and the Snowman trying to do their act. And it's like, one is like, hey, and the Snowman's like, hey, Fozzie. And he's like, yes, Mr. Snowman. And he's like, did you hear about the church that burned down? And then that's when they say, holy smokes.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And then I love how when Big Bird and the Swedish Chef are together, and at one point Big Bird asks him, like, what are you going to make? And the chef has to like come up with something quick, so he puts like a little thing together, and Big Bird's like, shredded wheat and cranberry sauce? That's my favorite.
Yeah, just a great film overall.
Yeah, really good. Okay, well, that will do it for our main list here, but let's now go ahead and talk about any honorable mentions. So I know you said you had Muppets from Spaces 1, and you said you had another one. If you want to just let us know what that is.
Yeah, it is from Sesame Street. It is Christmas on Sesame Street. I watched that video to death as a child. It starts off with the Sesame Street characters ice skating with Feliz Navidad playing in the background, and Big Bird wants to know how does Well, it starts off with Oscar and Big Bird. How does Santa Claus get down the chimney? And everyone tells him it's a secret because it is. He just comes and goes. And Big Bird is actually trying to catch Santa in the act, but he never will. And he actually ends up trying to get on the roof get on the Gordon's roof, and he's freezing to death, and it's so sad. And then Bert and Ernie, they're in a little pickle too, because they traded their favorite things to get the other one their Christmas present, the classic "I'll trade you this for that." And then Mr. Hooper ends up giving them back the stuff that they traded for as a nice gesture. And Bert sings "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas." So that was very touching. And then Cookie Monster is trying to write to Santa that he wants cookies for Christmas. He eats the phone, he eats a pencil and paper, and he destroys the typewriter and eats that too. And then Gordon says, well, if you want something for Santa, you got to give him something. And he's like what, Gordon? And he goes, cookies. And Cookie Monster's jaw just drops too. So this movie I really enjoyed as a kid watching it. Christmas on Sesame Street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had it as an honorable mention as well, and yeah, it's a wonderful special. Again, like you said, the opening scene where they're all ice skating. The through line of Big Bird trying to, prove Santa's, trying to find out Santa comes down the chimney. Like you said, the stuff with Cookie Monster, all the little interludes with the kids, where all the characters are asking them, how Santa gets down the chimney. And actually Kermit makes an appearance as one of them. So you get him in there as well. Like you said, the thing with Bert and Ernie, and then the very end where they leave Cookie Monster alone and he ends up eating the tree. He's like starch, pine, delicious, but Douglas fir give me heartburn. It's so great. But yeah, I did have that one. I also had as my other honorable mention here, Muppets Most Wanted, which was from 2014. This, of course, was the one where Kermit is mistaken for a thief who looks just like him, except the only difference is the thief has a little mole on it, and they had to go through, and the Muppets had to go try to prove his innocence. This is where I mentioned how Sam the Eagle plays a CIA agent working with an Interpol agent played by Ty Burrell. You have Ricky Gervais as the villain, the lemur, as he was called. You have Tina Fey as a prison guard. Then again, a lot of great cameos here. I mean, you got Tony Bennett, Lady Gaga, Danny Trejo, Tom Hiddleston, Ray Liotta. So many. And again, another wrestling tie, because if you remember, one of the inmates at the Gulag is Hornswoggle. Of course, everyone knows Hornswoggle, a very big Muppets fan. Of course, we think back to that when the Muppets were on Raw, and he had the segment with where he gave Miss Piggy a kiss, and Piggy gave him the karate chop. So yeah, I did want to, probably not as not quite as good as the 2011 film, but it had some fun moments in there. Did you have anything else to say about Muppets Most Wanted?
I've never seen it, so I might have to go put it on right now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me go ahead and I'll talk about Andy's remaining honorable mentions. A lot we already mentioned. But he does have two other TV shows that they did. He had Muppets Tonight, which was from '96. Kind of worked more like a talk show in this case. It was basically kind of like the unofficial sequel to the Muppet Show. Introduced a couple of new characters, brought back some of the original ones. This is the one where, like I said, what was the one? Pepe the King Prawn debuted. Don't remember a ton about this show. I don't know if I've seen any episodes of it, so I'll have to. This again, it was only on for one season, '96. So I'll have to kind of look back. But they did also have big guest stars in it as well. And then the other one he had, let me just pull up here the most recent actually Muppets film. That's the Muppets Mayhem, which came out in 2023. That was mainly focused on Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem, where they tried to get a platinum album. So again, you have Lily Singh as kind of the main star. Like I said, Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem are the main characters. I don't know if any of the other characters even appear in this one. They may as cameos, but for the most part, it is focused on them, on the Electric Mayhem, which is kind of unique because, like I said, they've kind of been almost like bit characters for the majority of their career, but then to kind of finally get their own show, I thought was definitely kind of interesting. So did you have anything else to say about either of those two shows?
No, I do not. I did not see the 1996 show, and I don't have anything to say about Andy's honorable mentions.
Okay, and actually, I made a mistake. There was one more he mentioned here, another movie, and that was another one of his. He said was one of his favorites. That's Muppet Treasure Island, which is basically the story of Treasure Island with Muppets involved. So, I think anyone knows Treasure Island pretty much knows that story. Again, kind of not as there weren't as many cameos in this one. You mainly had your main characters, Kevin Bishop, Tim Curry, Bill Connolly, and Jennifer Saunders, and then the Muppets. So again, I think if I've seen this one, it was only like one time, and I had to go back and rewatch it to see if I still like it. But I'll just ask again, do you have anything to say about Muppet Treasure Island?
Yeah, it was always on like ABC's Sunday Night Movie a lot, and what was the other thing? This is where it's really like the first time I was introduced to Tim Curry. I'm like, oh my god, this guy is a crazy, like he's been in a lot of stuff too. Like not crazy, but like he's been in crazy stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, you were Long John Silver. It's like, wow, Tim Curry did a lot for a lot of movies and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and some big ones too. I mean, he was in Amadeus as Mozart. He was. I remember him. Was it him? So he was in
Body and Glue.
Yeah, he was also he was in Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. That's where I first remembered him. He was the main concierge there, and I feel like he was
Pennywise.
Yes, Pennywise. Yeah, he was in the TV not the film. But yeah, so again, kind of, a guy that's kind of been in a lot of things, like you said. So Miranda had a few others, not many. She also had Muppet Treasure Island. She did have two other TV shows. She had Bear in the Big Blue House, which I vaguely remember that. I know that was on Disney Channel as part of the Playhouse Disney series. In the late 90s. Didn't watch a ton of that since that was past my age range. So I don't have too, but I do remember vaguely that because I know they had a stage show at I think it was at Hollywood Studios. So there was that, and then the last one she has here is this is another one I don't remember at all. It's another Sesame Street one. It's Big Bird in China, which came out in 1983. It was a television special, and it basically it features Big Bird going to China and kind of seeing all the main landmarks there. So again, not too many. I don't even remember that one. So I don't really have too much to say about that. But Gurney, did you have anything else to say about either Bear in the Big Blue House or Big Bird in China?
Yeah, Bear in the Big Blue House. I caught the tail end of my youth on Playhouse Disney. I'm still watching a couple of like little kid shows here. This might have been around when I was like 6 going on to 7. And so I was growing out of like little kid shows and moving on. But I thought it was very, very fun. Welcome to the Blue House, and you had all the puppets too. I forgot that it was not a Jim Henson production, but like the Jim Henson house or whatever, the house of Jim Henson, like the the Henson like productions did make that show, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot too. You had like Tucker the Mouse, the Moon. The goodbye song is very, very like that. They made the show too, like you always see like very, very soon stuff. Goodbye, 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 my friend, goodbye. Some random would know what I'm talking about. Big Bird going to China. I feel like I caught that one time. Like maybe I was shown it like as like a TV special, like in school actually, to learn about China through like maybe in like the first or second grade. And then there was like one also where like Big Bird gets lost in the museum and they have to like find him as well too. So yeah, I might have remembered Big Bird in China.
All right. Well, I will go ahead and finish things up here. We talked a lot of great memories here of the Muppets, whether it be the characters themselves or these films and TV shows. And it was definitely a lot of fun. So before we head out, we'll go ahead and talk about where we can be found on social media and what other podcasts we have going on. So, Grinny, I'll let you go ahead first.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Gruny316. That is GRUNEY 316 on Twitter, or X as they call it now. I still call it Twitter. And I have two podcasts. Steve mentioned them on the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed. One is called Extreme Resurrection, where me and Steve, we look back on ECW on Sci-Fi from 2006 to 2010. We are in March of 2008 now, and we just discovered that CM Punk is going to fight Chavo Guerrero for the ECW title one more time, as on our last two episodes, CM Punk beat Shelton Benjamin and Elijah Burke in a triple threat match to become the number one contender. So hopefully we'll have a winner in that matchup and the end of that feud, give or take. And then also on I also have another show called Nation Invasion, where I, along with a guest, we usually go over the Invasion era of 2001 when it was WWF versus the alliance of WCW and ECW. I just dropped the No Mercy 2001 watch along with Justin Rosero, Marcus Fuller, and Jeremy Nichols. We talked about how Rob Van Dam either should have won the title or should not have taken the fall, and Chris Jericho finally winning the big one as he beats The Rock for the WCW title. So the Invasion angle is coming to an end here, and me and Jeremy Nichols are going to finish off the month of the final weeks of October and the month of November off as well too, as we lead into Survivor Series as well. So, yeah, you can mostly find me on the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed. And also, I do have a show on the Place to Be Nation pop feed as well that is called Pop Goes Degrassi. I almost forgot that one. With me and John Kesselika, we are going over Degrassi Next Generation. We are in season 2. We just did episodes 5 and 6 called Weird Science and Drive. In Weird Science, the relationship between Emma and Mr. Simpson are coming a little bit closer, but Emma still feels weird about Mr. Simpson dating Emma's mom. And a whole science fair is in there as well. And we have the episode Drive, which is episode 6, where Craig is allowed to stay home while Joey is on a weekend getaway, but he's tempted to steal a car, and he breaks the trust of Joey there as well. So Craig makes bad decisions, and there are consequences. So you can catch all of that on the Place to Be Nation pop feed. Pop Goes Degrassi.
Yeah, great stuff there. I'll go ahead and give some love here for Andy Miranda, some of the stuff they do here on the feed. Miranda has a few great shows here. Bells with Books, Lady in the Beard, and 2004 A Film Odyssey. So please show her some love on those. Andy, he does the Video Jukebox Song of the Day along with myself here on this feed. And he also has on the wrestling feed Who's Next with Logan Crosland, where they're going through NXT, the current current day. I'm very excited for their next episode because I know anyone who's been following NXT. As we're recording this, a lot of big things have happened over the last few weeks between the upcoming show with AAA, the Worlds Collide, and a couple of what looked like some promotions to the main roster. So we got some good stuff there. So they got a lot of great stuff to talk about. And then the three of us, him, Andy, Miranda, and myself, of course, we have Pop Goes to Classics, where we're looking at all of the Disney animated films. Our most recent episode, we talked Big Hero 6. So our next one will be on Zootopia, which I'm looking forward to because I love that film. I love that film a lot. And then as for me, I mentioned the Video Jukebox. I know Grooney mentioned Extreme Resurrection. I do also appear periodically on the North-South Connection with Cronoso. I've been kind of absent the last few episodes, but I will be back shortly on there. And then Grooney did mention as well, but I will kind of give also some love to North-South for their project they've got going on this year. That being No So 95, where they're looking at everything 1995, since this is the 30th anniversary of that year. Me and Grooney did our own pod for that feed, where we looked at Nickelodeon from 1995. So a lot of great memories there, reminiscent on all the shows that aired at Nickelodeon during that time. So please give them some love and give that project some love. And also be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channels. All four of our feeds have a YouTube channel: the Wrestling feed, the Pop feed, Backbone, and North South. So please give us some love and some subscriptions over there. We definitely greatly appreciate it. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. It's been a lot of fun. We look forward to our next episode. So for James Gruenberg, Andy Atherton, and Mirandia Berthold, I am Steve Riddle. This has been Making Mount Rushmore here on the PTV Pop Experience, and we'll see you next time.